This week, we interview CrossFit PHX owner Mycal as he walks us through how to start and facilitate your very own local mastermind group. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Gymwright Live. I'm your host, Marcus Gurzy, and with me today we have the one and only Mr. Mycal. What's up, Mycal?
What's up, brother? How you doing, man?
It's another day in paradise, my man. Life is good. How's everything in Phoenix?
No complaints. It is beautiful, sunny, and 80 degrees. No, it's all good.
Gotta love it, man. Yeah, anytime we chat, it's we have a pretty parallel existence when it comes to sunshine. I talk to a lot of people all over the place, and it's like, how's it going over there? Oh, it's going great over here. You? It's freezing. Why you say that? So anyway, man. Cool. Well, hey, pleasure to finally have you on. We go way back. We've done all sorts of things together and spent a lot of time together. We've been working with you on CrossFit PHX for some time, and really become a fan of you, not just in our working relationship together, but just really watching you evolve over the years. And really build yourself a pretty serious empire, man. You're kicking some ass over there.
Yeah, things are rocking and rolling, man. A lot of our talks, our mastermind experience together, and then just lessons learned along the way have been extremely fruitful. So I appreciate number one, having me on today so I can share some of that knowledge with the group, and then but most importantly, I really appreciate everything that our relationship has fostered for me and my business. So, Gymwright is an amazing community to be a part of, and you're doing, the industry as a whole, not just us as individuals, a huge service by putting this thing together, man. So big ups to you.
Man. Thank you very much, Dan. Thank you very much. Like I said, excited to have you on. We're going to dive into a topic that I think no one knows better than you. And that is masterminds and networking and really maximizing your relationships, whether it's with members and just your local business community. And we're actually going to talk about how to, create and facilitate a local mastermind, so you can really take your business game to the next level. So I'm excited to dig in with you. A question I always like to ask: why should a gym owner care about this? What are the benefits to a gym owner watching this?
So basically, whether you acknowledge it or you're aware of it or not, as the owner of your gym, your community, the tribal leader, if you will, you are indeed a facilitator. And, you can't know everything, and reciprocity is a real thing. And it just makes genuine sense that more brains are better than one, and to leverage the experience of and the opinion in some cases of your member base, those who experience the tribe that you've created on a daily basis, and leverage their knowledge and experience, especially those that are in business for themselves. You're doing yourself a disservice by not leveraging that knowledge.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I mean, one of the biggest things I've learned in business over the last many years is that old adage of your network is your net worth is probably one of the most true things that, especially the longer you do it, you realize that, things come and go, ideas come and go, team members come and go, trends come and go, but your network doesn't come and go. You should be constantly grooming that and nurturing those relationships. And as a gym owner, you have a built-in power network, because, we tend to run, especially if you're running a CrossFit gym or a higher end strength conditioning facility, we tend to charge quite a bit for what we do relative to a lot of other services. So we attract higher end individuals. So we tend to attract the business owners and the, CEOs or executives. And of course we attract also all walks of life, but you're going to find a pretty solid collection of those people at your gym, because we're also pretty focused around, getting hard work done and accomplishing a lot with in as little time as possible. So you're going to attract people with that mindset. And so most people don't realize they're sitting on a gold mine. in regards to just the members that you have, let alone you cultivate those relationships and the people that they have in their networks now also become a part of your network.
Right.
So it's a huge opportunity for you to once again position yourself as the I mean, if you're organizing it, you can be the person who kind of all of a sudden rises to everyone else's level. But for me personally, it's always been a goal to be the lowest man on the proverbial totem pole in the room of the people I'm networking with. I want to have people around me where I'm going, shit, that guy's on top of it, or man, she's got it together. Yeah. To where it's constantly challenging me to, have a more advanced or sophisticated perspective, whatever we're talking about, because you're going to hear things, especially when you're talking different industries, people who are in all different verticals, you're going to learn a ton, get some fresh perspective.
No, absolutely. And, I think that, in the beginning, all I wanted to do was, take certain members and make sure that they were aware of each other in my space. Whether it's, a guy in our network is a general contractor and he flips homes. I got another guy who's a financial advisor, another guy that just sold his company that he built from the ground up. So he's done, a business, he's sold, he's participated in the acquisition of his business, and now he's semi-retired and looking for his next opportunity. And none of these guys, even though they can, all provide a value, there's a lot of value in them knowing each other. In the beginning, didn't know of each other because one guy trains at 5 a.m., the other guy trains at noon, the other guy trains in the evening. But at the same time, you should be spending the majority of your time when you're not actively coaching classes, really diving in and getting to know your members above and beyond what they want out of your gym's experience. And in asking those deeper questions, you can start to connect the dots. Well, you're looking for your next home. You should talk to this guy. That's exactly what he does for a living, And then, you're looking to acquire another business and increase your bandwidth, your umbrella, so to speak. I know a guy who can help you facilitate that process as well. If nothing else, they can kind of give you some lessons learned via their experience, even if nothing actually comes of it from a business transactional standpoint.
Sure.
So what I did over the course of a couple of weeks as I started to put this thing together, I just invited all of them as a collective out for beers. And, introduced them, and I edified the shit out of all of them, and made them the subject matter expert in their space. If you want to know about fixing and flipping homes, talk to this guy. If you want to know about finances and 401ks, talk to this guy. And edified them to the point where they were the only ones worth talking to in that space, regardless of any pre-existing relationships. So while we're at the table, everybody is now held in the esteem as the professional that they are. And so that's really your job in making that connection. I didn't start my mastermind to start a mastermind. All I wanted to do was take this collection of awesome people and make sure they knew about each other. Right. And as a result, we're talking about a collection of people who are 10, 15, 20 years ahead of me in business ownership,
in life,
just their professional careers.
Right.
So they then essentially collectively took me under their wing and started showing me a lot about my business, key performance indicators. When I opened CrossFit PHX, I didn't know what a KPI was. So they just started kind of giving me this inside out MBA education via their experience, and at the same time leveraging their expectations of me as a businessman, not just a gym owner.
Right. Yeah. It allows you to become a better business owner, not just a better gym owner. Right. Everyone gets really caught up in just, mastering their model. But really what you have to understand is that you can pull so much from different business types And when you just become a better business person, not only is your gym going to thrive better, but you're going to start to see the peripheral opportunities that come with running that gym, and you're going to actually be able to do something with it. So, but before we move any further, I wanted to kind of rewind a little bit because we kind of glazed over two really important points. When we're talking networking, there's two things that you can do, even if you're like, first of all, what is networking? I don't get it. People always talk about it. Isn't that just being friends with people? The trick is this. You're trying to position yourself as a valuable person, not just a nice person, a person they enjoy hanging out with, but a valuable person to a group of people who also have value. And what we're doing, what you talked about was, for one, playing matchmaker is one of the easiest ways to have you become valuable because you introduced them to someone else who was valuable, right? So what you were saying about how I just wanted to make sure they knew each other, you may not have realized it at the time, but that is a networking technique to where you're trying, when you meet someone, if you just think like, okay, who do I know that could help them, or, they could help each other, and you just make an introduction and say, hey, you know what? I was thinking about it, Mycal. I know you've been working on that book, and I actually have a buddy of mine. He's an editor. He's been in publishing forever. I wanted to put you two in touch. He might be able to help you out. Now you're going to look at me saying like, man, that was awesome. That was really thoughtful. And you went out of your way to introduce me to someone that you know, which people know is kind of on reserve for like, I like you, I trust you, I want to see you succeed. You don't just do that for anybody. So it's a really powerful networking trick. And the second thing is that when you introduce people, it's that whole edification. You said, I edify the shit out of it. When you introduce someone, that you introduce them with clout. You introduce them as like, man, Mycal, he runs one of the best gyms in Phoenix, in the Phoenix area, which, by the way, congratulations on getting voted best CrossFit gym in the country.
I appreciate that, man.
That was killer. But yeah, you say things that are going to position that person up so that they all of a sudden feel like, wow, I feel like a badass. I feel kind of important. Whether it's an email introduction or even better when you do it in person. So whether this is at a party, this is at a networking event, or like a mastermind like you talked about, just putting a little bit of thought into an introduction as you do it goes a really long way. And if those are the only two things that you did, you will become infinitely more successful in business because your networking game, quote unquote, is now actually better than most people. So those are two little nuggets we just passed over. I know that's not necessarily the point of the show, but wanted to point it out.
No, I mean, being a connector is what we inherently are as gym owners. I mean, you're in front of, hundreds of people, on a daily basis throughout the week, and every person, regardless of, their industry or their job, their profession, has some kind of inherent value. And it's kind of, I've taken it upon myself in realizing that to highlight that value and really do my best to put people in a position where they can exhibit that creative genius as much as possible in our community. And at the same, what that does, it actually helps take a lot of load off you as the owner, because now they have ownership in your community as well. And they, as bad as you want your gym to succeed, they now have a vested interest in your success as well.
Yep. And you're turning those people into ambassadors because, again, you've now become more valuable to them by helping them with their business without ever having to ask it. They are now going to do the same for you. So whether it's you needing help on, business to business resources, like, hey, I'm going to expand my gym. And they're like, you can use my contractor guy. He'll take good care of you and you save a bunch of money, or you get really good work done. Or it's them just sending you business. It's exactly where you want to be. So let's dig into the meat of the show here. So I want to break down the step-by-step for someone who wants to put on their own local business mastermind and kind of get something like this started and create their own local networking group. Where would somebody begin?
So the first part is just the meet and greet. You want to be very selective in who's in your mastermind. Number one, they don't have to be entrepreneurs. I want to just go ahead and preface that. In terms of, if the goal is making your gym the best that it can possibly be, they don't have to be entrepreneurs to provide an insight towards that goal. So you want to make sure that you like and trust them. You value their insight, their opinion. Number two, you want to make sure that they can provide value to the collective, to the others that are going to make up this mastermind. Whether it's just by virtue of being a good person, or they actually have, there's a strategic alliance that could be made there. So you definitely want to play matchmaker in that respect, and make sure that everybody at the table brings something to the table. And then the third thing, and most importantly, once you get past the meet and greet and you've edified everybody, no more than 10 people, I would say. After that, it just becomes very cloudy, a lot of chatter. Everybody's kind of having their own sidebar conversation. And I'm not one. I've been a member of a bunch of masterminds, and the hot seat structure is good from time to time. But when you get too many people, it really inhibits the ability to do the impromptu hot seat.
Right.
And we'll talk about the hot seat here in a second. But the most critical part is consistency. Just like everything else in business and social media these days, the hot word is consistency. So you want to make sure that everybody who, sits at that table, and I know in my group, everybody lives and dies by the calendar on their phone. And if it's not on the calendar, it's not going to get done, or it's going to get missed. So you want to make sure that your mastermind is at a regularly scheduled time, all the time. So we meet the first Thursday of every month. 6 a.m. Down the street from the gym. And, so you don't necessarily have to, you're not forced to follow up because you know that it's on the calendar. So those would be the top three things. Be strategic in who you invite. Keep the numbers as low as possible so that you're getting the most value. And then make sure that it's on the calendar.
Right. Got it. And so, when you initially do this first one, are you explaining what are you telling them your intention is? Like, hey, I'm just trying to get some local business leaders together. We're going to go have some beers and just kind of see what happens. Or are you telling them? Yeah, it was
exactly that. The reason that I almost verbatim. When we sat down that first night, I just simply said, hey, I've been having a lot of revolving conversation with you guys, and I find myself over and over and over again saying, Forrest, you should meet John. John, you should meet Matt. Matt, you should meet Derek. And, I just realized in following up on those conversations that you guys weren't actually meeting each other. So rather than slide you each other's information and creating this, stranger to stranger phone call, I'd figure I'd just go ahead and invite all of you together, because outside of the one-on-one stuff, I feel like as a group, you'd benefit from knowing each other. That's why we're here tonight. And, at that point, I just kind of introduced everybody and what they did and what they bring to the table. And I kind of just let it go from there. And, an organic byproduct of that is, oh, well, hey, thanks, Mycal, for introducing all of us to each other. We really appreciate that. Oh, by the way, here's some of our insight into our experience at CrossFit PHX, and here are some of the things from a business standpoint that we think that you can implement to make it that much better and grow that much faster.
Yeah, and the conversations start from there. Yeah, my experience has been, because I've done both the very formal, like structured mastermind or local business meetup where there was an agenda and people are taking meeting minutes, and it's very structured, and there are some things that are nice about that. But I've also done the very loose, like very organic, where we had a weekly breakfast every Friday morning, and it was very loose. People knew we kept a local or a private Facebook group, and if anyone ever showed up and they were cool, add them to the group. And it was very come and go as you please, because also for ours was weekly. And I loved that setup because it was so casual. There was no set agenda, but we accomplished a lot. We had a lot of really good meetings and conversations with people that turned into, I mean, now very serious friendships, and we're very close and have done business together. And I mean, all sorts of things have come from these things. So it's not just the business advice and conversation and, you know, getting to know each other, networking and all that sort of thing, but just going somewhere and being able to sit down and get out of that entrepreneurial, like, what did you call it? The entrepreneurial island.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's tough to be in a place where you can just talk about, and sometimes you don't talk business at all. You're just there to get off the island and to just go and chit chat. But what I personally liked most about it is that as an entrepreneur, especially the longer that you do it, the deeper in that you go, because there's a lot of people who are new, but there's not many who make it the longer run. So obviously the conversation is going to be quite different between someone who's brand new to business versus someone who's been in 20 years. And just being around other people where you know you can just have a much more educated conversation, or even just kind of, if it's venting about something or being like, man, this is a problem for me, or I've got this opportunity. What do you hear when I say that? And just getting a completely different perspective from someone else who, you know, it's like everyone in the room is qualified. So you can just kind of hang out, be yourself, and get all sorts of different levels of conversation, inside input. And it has proven to be one of my very favorite things. And we used to do it, the one that I was doing every week was about an hour south of me. And I drove an hour one way to go have breakfast and an hour back every week because it was that good. And so now we're actually in the process here of doing another one up here locally where I'm at, where my office is in San Clemente. So they're fantastic. I mean, if you guys have not done this, if you're watching this, you're like, man, that sounds really cool. It is really cool. And it's really easy to set up and very much worthwhile, to just get going and just let it be loose. It will start to take its own form as you go.
No, it's been extremely fruitful on multiple levels. Like you said, you know, we don't just we're not exclusive to talking about business or the growth of PHX. You know, we've talked about everything from how, as an entrepreneur, do you integrate your significant other who does the 9-to-5 thing and help them understand, you know, and have a successful relationship. And as a byproduct of our group, we have, you know, guys that have done it multiple ways. They're either, you know, they're married and in business with their significant other, or they have a very clear, definitive separation of church and state. So you get both perspectives. So we've helped people with that. We've helped people launch new products. We have a guy who's in the commercial real estate space, multi-unit, and you know, he had the opportunity before he signed, you know, on the dotted line, got a lot of valuable insight as to what made that particular deal a bad deal, and he didn't do it. And turns out that it would have been a horrible move for his entire portfolio. So there's a lot of value that just comes from the mastermind experience, not just for business, but just life in general. You know, where should I go on my next vacation? We talk about stuff like that all the time. But yeah, you can get as personal or entrepreneurial as you want. But the best part about it, and I know I felt this way opening CrossFit PHX, a lot of the stuff that goes into opening the gym, you know, the storms that we create in our heads, you know, you feel like you're the only one going through that, and to sit down at a table full of people that are either going through it, and more importantly, have gone through it and can help you weather that storm and, you know, talk you off the ledge, so to speak, is critical. You know, to have that ability to vent once a month has been awesome for me. You know, my wife works. She is not an entrepreneur by any means. So it feels good. It's healthy for our relationship to have this other network.
Right.
So I'm not bringing work home all the time.
Right. You're not bouncing your new, you know, marketing idea off of her. Dude, it's so funny you say that. This literally happened to me last night. Don't
get me wrong. It still happens. I'm like, babe, what do you think about this? She's like, I just
So I
want to
don't really
watch the
care.
Kardashians. Like,
She's like,
oh
I know
yeah.
you're really excited, so it sounds great, but can we not talk about that? And it's like, you're
Right.
right.
Yeah. You just got
I need
home.
an
Can you
outlet.
like, can you can we eat dinner first and then we can talk about that? Oh yeah, definitely. So it definitely, for me and my home life, even though she's a very active participant in what I do with the gym, it's good to break that up and give your home life a little reprieve from your business as well.
For
Because as
sure.
entrepreneurs, it's so easy to just bring work home because you're always thinking about it. Even if it's in the back of your mind, it's still on your mind. So to have that sounding board, that relief, somebody else to spread load that burden is also great. A valuable tool to have as well.
Sure. Yeah. And pro tip, if you're hearing all this, you're thinking like, this sounds awesome. I think I'm going to go do it. And like one of the first questions I would have had would be, do you put rules in place? What do how do you kind of like, is there any structure? I kept it pretty loose and always really just made it about, hey, if you're going to show up, be willing to contribute and introduce yourself. So that when people got there, they would just introduce themselves and start chit-chatting, because oftentimes someone will bring a buddy. And I was a big fan of people just bringing a buddy, because if someone was in the group and they knew what the group was about, and they're like, man, I want to bring my buddy Tom. He runs a pizza shop. Shout out Tom. He runs a pizza shop, and he's kicking some pretty serious ass. I'd like to bring him in. Bring him in. And all you know is that he comes in and you're introducing him. You're letting him know, hey, just show up, share, introduce yourself, and they fit right in and they feel welcome. And you can go really far very quickly. And that was a very helpful tip I got at one point. So I want to pass that on.
And one of the other organic things that we haven't touched on is it's difficult. It's really easy to take for granted what you actually have access to. And once you start connecting these dots and bringing these great people together, as far as your business is concerned, they're going to want to introduce people to that network as well. Maybe not necessarily through your mastermind, because that's something that you put together, but something that's happened to me is their friends who they want to introduce to this network via fitness become members.
Right.
And that obviously only helps your cause as well, because now they've vetted the community for you. There is no sale. And that makes life so easy. We offer a free week for prospective members, and we do all that good stuff. And I can't tell you how many times as a byproduct of my mastermind, people have come in as a referral, and I'm like, hey, guess what? Your first week's free. We'll get you through the waiver. I give them the whole spiel, and they're like, no. I'm going to take this class, and then I'll sign up afterwards. And they bypass all of it. They already know what they want.
Because you're bringing other power players in. Power players respect the game. Power players know the game, right? So they show up and they're like, I respect I already vetted you when we had breakfast. I think you've got it together. I like you. My buddy who's been training at your gym says it's amazing. I'm in. Let's do this. And plus, I know you're in the service business, so I'll be sure to like properly send you referrals constantly. I built a little network in my gym. We ended up having, there was probably about 10 like power player local business owners, everything from real estate agents to insurance agents that owned their own spots. And these people they were my top referrers because they know the game. And they would bring in the people they referred were oftentimes also other people of the like, because they're going to attract, or they're going to bring in their circle of influence, people they actually want to hang out with. So now they do the same thing. And it was a really powerful thing. It kind of happened by accident initially. It wasn't by design when we first started, but it ended up being a really powerful tool. On that note, I wanted to ask you one question before we kind of switch to any live Q&A. Anyone who has any questions, by the way, go ahead and put them in the comments. But we are getting a little tight on time. So in one sentence, if you could give one piece of advice to a gym owner, what would it be?
If I could give any advice to any gym owner, I would say that, with regards to the context of this conversation, be authentic. You're trying to leverage knowledge, and if you're not asking questions and admitting areas of ignorance or perceived weakness, you're not going to get the help that you're looking for.
Right.
So be vulnerable. It's okay. It only helps you. It doesn't hurt you.
Yeah, no doubt. That was it's a lesson I learned years ago that I have to remind myself constantly, because we can kind of put on our persona, our, bulletproof leadership persona. And, you want to be able to put your guard down too and let people see that you're going to get far more support. You're going to learn more too. Where can people find more about you, Mycal?
You can find me on Instagram at Coach Derz. That's Coach DERZ. You can follow our family at CrossFit PHX at CrossFit PHX. Mm-hmm. And then I have a mindset podcast with my partner, Jeff Thornton, at Feed Jeff? Me, and you can follow us at Feed Me, Fuel Me. Marcus, by the way, before we get off, we need to schedule that, get you on the show. And let's see, if you're interested in remote programming or anything like that, we just launched our functional bodybuilding and competitive CrossFit platforms, and you can check that out at phxplus.wodify.com.
Right on, man. And you had a new book you had a book that came out not too long ago, The Manifestation of Affirmation.
Yeah. So I wrote a 30-day process. This is something that I've participated in quarterly since I was 24 years old, and I decided to I was introduced to it by a mentor of mine. I decided to write it out, and it's a 30-day process to reprogram your brain to be more positive and more productive. So oftentimes, especially when you're sitting in the seats that we sit in, it's easy to just get lost in the muck and just watch your momentum just come to a screeching halt. Mm-hmm. And it's important that, you take some time, recheck in, get yourself some introspection, appreciate the journey that you're on and how far you've come, so that you can take that build that momentum and keep pushing forward. So that's what the manifestation of affirmation is all about.
Love it, man. Well,
you can find that on Amazon.
Yeah, we'll put the link in the show notes for you guys watching here. Check it out. We'll put the links to all your stuff too, Derz. Thank you so much for being on, man. I know we're out of time for you today. You got to run. So thank you very much for being on the show. If you're watching this and you have any questions and you're not catching this live, feel free to put them in the comments below. Tag Mycal and or myself. We'll be happy to answer them for you. Mycal, keep doing what you're doing, man. Again, I appreciate you. Thanks for being on the show. And we'll see everybody again next week.
Hey, looking forward to it, brother. Thank you.
Yes, sir.